We're going to get started today with honoring Jim, and we brought back some of his special alumni. There's many special track and field, women and cross-country alumni with us, and a lot of his family's with us as well. Thank you for coming far and wide, internationally, domestically, on planes, in cars, sleeping on air mattresses probably, here and there and everywhere, but you're here, and thanks for coming back to the University of Jamestown. We're going to start with one of those family members speaking this morning from the class of 2012. She ran for Jim, and her family's been in town for a lot of years. From the class of 2012, Maddie Ranum.
All right. I'm a millennial, so I have my notes on my phone here. So my name is Maddie Ranum, as Brett said. I am Coach Clark's niece. And I also had the privilege to run for him in track and field and cross country from 2009 to 2012. Coach Clark's accomplishments and longevity in the sports of track and field and cross country will never be replicated again at the University of Jamestown. But the irony is that his coaching career was never about any of that. Coach Clark's philosophy was to be a calm, steady influence for his athletes, a mentor, and a father figure. He made it a point to make sure all of his athletes felt comfortable and at home, which helped each athlete to focus on competing and giving their all for a coach they so highly respected. Coach Clark could bring things out of you that you never thought you could do. One year, I was fortunate enough to qualify with some incredible teammates for nationals in 3 events, which would require me to run a total of 6 800s within 2 days, or 30 hours or something like that. As the national meet approached, I thought for sure that Coach Clark would have me drop at least one of those. But when the Monday before the national meet rolled around, I saw my name was still in all 3 events. I would not be able to do this. I approached Coach Clark about it, and I thought, of course, he'd listen to me. I'm his favorite niece. But he just kept walking right by me in his usual deadpan demeanor and said, "Nope, that's the plan." I was shocked, and I was wondering how he could do this to me. If memory serves me right, I agonized the entire week over this, but eventually the national meet came, and there was no way out. Coach Clark was confident the whole time. Me, not so much, but he coached me to focus on each race one at a time. Somehow, I made it through all 6 events, and I may have shed a tear or two and thought Coach Clark was crazy by that 6th one. And I also may have taken it out on one of his family members and former athletes, my mom. But in the end, my teammates and I, Katie Conlin, Alyssa Bossler, Annalisa Fouth, Marissa Curry, and Emmy Lynn Bentley, were able to add ourselves to the long list of All-Americans under Coach Clark. I truly could not have done my part without his confidence in me. Little does Coach Clark know, I often think back to this national meet when facing a difficult challenge in my life today, whether it be with work, motherhood, or just any of the challenges that life can throw your way. Coach Clark gave me the confidence to know that I can do hard things. This is just one of my many great experiences running for Coach Clark. But over the years, I've heard many other athletes share theirs as well. When you're related to Coach Clark, you're basically related to a celebrity. And you know you're in the presence of greatness when everybody knows your uncle's name and follows it up with nothing but positive things to say. Over the years, these are some of the things I've heard people say about Coach Clark. Coach Clark, he's the best coach I've ever had. Coach Clark, he always made sure we were well taken care of. Coach Clark, he's the reason I came to Jamestown. Coach Clark, he's the reason I stayed at Jamestown. Coach Clark, he didn't have kids of his own, but we were like his kids. Coach Clark, he helped me find potential I didn't even know I had. Coach Clark, he knew so much about me, and I wasn't even his athlete. I get that one a lot. It's cool. It's really cool. Coach Clark, he's the reason I'm a nurse, a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, a university president today. Coach Clark, he meant so much to me, I asked him to walk me down the aisle. I can think of no greater supporter and encourager than Coach Clark. And he doesn't stop when you graduate. Just the other day, Coach Clark handed me a 35th birthday card with a handful of supportive messages. It never gets old and it always uplifts me. He continues to keep track and support all of his athletes well beyond their collegiate years. Coach Clark, to me, your career is a metaphor of love. In my mind, there's nothing more symbolic of love than Coach Clark waiting for you at the finish line. No matter how you raced or performed, whether you had the best race of your life or the worst one you could imagine, he was always there for you and ready to wrap you proudly in one of his signature hugs. Coach Clark, thank you for everything you've done for all of us who've ever been a part of the Jimmy family. We love you. Go Jimmies.
Thank you, Maddie. Another one of your athletes that came back today from a good distance. Richmond, Texas. Richmond?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Shawna Myers from the class of 1998, a suburb of Houston, Texas.
Woo-hoo.
Thank you for coming back and sharing in honor of Coach Clark.
Hello. All the way from Texas. Woohoo! Do we have any Texas fans out there? All right. Well, it is such a pleasure to be back. I don't know. It's just such an honor. He's such a legend, and he did so much for me. So, anyways, last Sunday I was out running my 10 mile. I'm a weirdo. I do 10 miles as much as I can. So I was out doing my 10-mile run, and I was thinking about coming back to this cold weather. And it's cold, y'all. I'm freezing. So I was out on my 10-mile run, and just this random thought came into my head. I thought, dang, I wonder what car Coach is driving now. And I was thinking about it, and I just thought, back in the day when it was in the 90s, he always had this big van. And he would take us all out, and we would ride in that van. Well, you know, I was the last one in the van for a while, so he would ask me all this stuff or tell me all these stories, and finally he'd be like, Shawna, this about your spot. I'm gonna be dropping you off right out here. And there was some times I would be out there alone, maybe out on some farm road, and dogs would be coming out. You know, I'm thinking, okay, I gotta approach these dogs a little safe, and I'd make it past these dogs, but anyways, now I'm not scared of dogs anymore. But so anyways, he would take us out there, and we would run back to campus. There was even a few times he would take us out, and it would be snowy and cold, and one time he dropped us right by an accident. He's like, yeah, just go on back to campus, just from here. And it was only like 3 miles, so we were like, yeah, okay, that's good practice. One time we slid off the road, and he was like, hey, will y'all try to see if you can push us back off the... And so we all got out there. We had got the giggles. We were sliding everywhere. Finally, he said, just run back to campus. So anyways, we all just, you know, we left him out there. I don't know how you got back. Anyways, we got back to campus. We had to run, but we always had the best time. He always made running fun. He always would, take us out and tell us to play some frisbee golf. And sometimes as we were playing frisbee golf, well, one time I was going on ahead. I thought I would be the fastest one, and I'd run on ahead, and I was looking backwards, and I ran straight into a fence. So, of course, he made me, go do something different the next day. But he always made it fun. I think one time he even let us go sledding until somebody may have gotten hurt. I think we went straight into a hay bale or something. I don't know. But y'all, through all this, he made a lasting impression on me to never give up on my dreams. Every day is a new day for me to get the privilege to pass on his legacy to my students, where to have fun, to work hard. He was always more than just a coach to me. He was like my dad. And I needed that. Being far away from home, I needed to have a dad figure where he took care of me. He talked to me. He was there for me. And I'm so grateful for all these memories and experiences Coach helped me through, and he will always be one of my forever favorite people. It blows my mind to think of all that he did just for me, and all those 46 years, what he did for all of the kids that came through his program. I can't imagine. I'm truly grateful, and I'm blessed to be able to be a part of the Jimmy program. So thank you.
Thank you, Shawna. Next, we're going to hear from Billie Dixon. Billie's from the class of 1985, and she's being honored later today. She's already an Athletic Hall of Fame member, and you're going to receive the Jim Clark Award today. Thank you for speaking in honor of Jim today. Billie.
Thank you so much, Brett. And thank you, President Peterson, for making this special event happen. Jim Clark finish line. I thank God for giving Jim Clark the health and energy to coach for 46 years. Jim Clark's 46 years of success came from careful planning and plenty of work. Jim took his engineering degree to engineer great teams year after year. Jim did everything from recruiting many athletes from all over, persevering and never giving up. He trained student athletes by placing excellent workouts in our mailboxes and then making sure everyone completed them. I don't remember Jim ever missing a practice, and oftentimes he would be running with us to make us go even faster. Jim scheduled excellent competition for everyone and then provided the transportation to wherever we were going to compete. He drove many, many miles. Just in the time I was at Jamestown, he drove us to Kenosha, Wisconsin 3 years in a row, and then to Charleston, West Virginia for the national track meet. Jim also drove us to the meets that were nearby and in the surrounding area. It would be interesting to know how many miles he actually drove over his 46-year career. I'm sure he has been around the world and back. He did a great job of communicating with everyone and eventually doing a lot with technology, as he has massive results on all of his former athletes. If you want a former athlete's time or distance, I am sure Jim has it. Jim took the time to speak on the radio to sell his program and to build up his athletes. My grandma Susan really enjoyed listening to him on the radio. In fact, many people from the little town of Marion, North Dakota, started following the Jimmies. People like to follow winning teams. His community involvement was huge as he marked out many cross-country courses, and even today he was prepared for our walk run this morning. He also helped work at high school meets. Jim always had the meet results printed in the newspapers. The results and write-ups were very motivating for his athletes, and it kept the community informed of cross-country and track results. My parents, Bill and Shirley Dixon, enjoyed reading the Jamestown Sun from south of Watford City, North Dakota. Yes, Jim has recruited other athletes from out in that area. He cared and was concerned about all of his athletes and their families. Now, many of his former athletes are continuing to coach their athletes, and then their athletes go on to coach other athletes, and the baton continues to get passed on from one generation to the next. Coach was a positive influence for many people and continues to influence lives. His character was second to none. Now, I would like to share a couple of thoughts of well-known people that describe Jim Clark. A quote from the famous John Wooden, who won 10 national basketball championships for UCLA, is very fitting for Jim Clark, which says, and I quote, "Success is peace of mind, which is a direct result of self-satisfaction in knowing you did your best to become the best that you are capable of becoming. Here is another picture that sums up Jim Clark's character. Eric Little, who is a devout Christian and an Olympic runner, and he refused to run the 100 meters, which was his best race in the Olympics in 1924 in Paris, because the finals were going to be on the Sabbath day. He was not going to run on the Sabbath day. So he decided to train for the 200 and 400. He won the gold medal in the 400 meters, and he got third in the 200 meters. He was competitive and determined to use his abilities to the fullest. But his meekness, kindness, and gentle spirit won admiration even from people he defeated. He was described as ridiculously humble in victory and utterly generous in defeat. Thank you for doing it all, as I don't remember you having very many assistant coaches throughout your legendary and successful career. You are well deserving of the Jim Clark finish line, which will stand at the University of Jamestown forever. Thank you for your 46 years of coaching at Jamestown College, which is now the University of Jamestown. God bless you, and I wish you a healthy and enjoyable retirement. And thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Billie. I travel with Dr. Peterson, and this is my 6th year going out on the road with her, and more often than not, the story comes up of how she got to the University of Jamestown and her own story, and how her own story was formed here, and a lot of that has to do with Coach Clark. I'm going to ask Polly to speak, and then she's going to read the dedication monument that we have here that, as Billie said, will forever live here at the University of Jamestown and the Jim Clark finish line. And you can come up here and take photos later. But without further ado, Polly, would you come speak and honor Jim this morning?
Thank you so much, and congratulations, Jim. I don't think any of us believe that you're really going to retire, because I know you and you'll be around all the time. I'll just give you a brief summary of my own story. Jim recruited me when I was a senior in high school, and he'd call every Wednesday night, and I always looked forward to it because he knew I was a basketball player too, and you knew everything about what had happened that week, and we would talk on the phone. I was sort of a shy senior and very close to my family, so I was one of the few people who could tell you no, and I said no, and I ended up staying very close to home. And about probably the first day of school, I knew I'd made a mistake, and by Thanksgiving I was transferred. And my brother said to my mom, she really always wanted to go to Jamestown, and my mother was like, well, why didn't you just say that? I remember it like it was yesterday. So Mom called you, and by spring, you had everything finalized, and I was on my way to Jamestown. And when my mom dropped me off that fall, like a typical freshman mom, she was teared up, and I wasn't. And I looked at her and I said, I feel like I died and went to heaven. I found my home. And what I think was so special about Jamestown and the time that we spent together is I was not his best runner, and he made me feel like I was. Everything he did was about us. We would get home from a meet at midnight, and by 6 or 7 in the morning, we'd go to our mailbox, and our results were in our mailbox. And that was at a time when we didn't have computers. So he had it all done and typed up, and then he made all the copies. I don't know how you did that. Other than the fact that I did work for him, he had a couch in his office, and he ate tomato sandwiches. That's what you did. It was wonderful. It was the best 3 years of my life. And when I graduated, I was coming out of baccalaureate into his arms. And I tell this story quite often. And he says to me, does anybody remember his He always has this And he says, I never did understand why you majored in accounting. I don't see you as an accountant. I said, I just spent 3 years with you and you tell me that now? Now what am I supposed to do? I think you were right. Because here we are. You maybe foresaw that.
I must have saw something greater for you.
You saw something greater for everybody you've ever been around. And I think the quality of a great leader is somebody you do not want to disappoint. And he was the kind of coach and leader that you do not want to disappoint. You always wanted to do your best. You always wanted to think the best of you. And as a result, you get the best out of people. And I think that was your greatest asset you gave to anybody you have ever been around. So thank you for that. Thank you for all the years that you have committed to people. We are your family. We are your children. And we have loved every day that we've gotten to be around you. And I've been blessed that I've gotten to do that for an extra 33 years. And so thank you for giving your life and your love to the University of Jamestown and to all those that you've been around. I don't know if you've seen this yet, but this is the start of the forever finish line. So I'm going to read it for you. This is in honor of all of the of the athletes that you coached. Coach Jim Clark will forever be synonymous with the University of Jamestown's women track and field and cross country. He is loved and admired by his athletes and colleagues. Coach Clark dedicated years of his life to serve as head coach of both programs, having been tasked to establish the Jimmy women's cross country team from the ground up when he was first hired in 1979. He is originally from Woodworth, North Dakota. Coach Clark's passion for education and coaching intrinsically steered him away from his early career in civil engineering, which he does hold a degree in, by the way, to coach Jamestown College. And I loved what you said, to engineer winning teams for many decades. A natural fit from the very beginning, Coach Clark has enriched the lives of the Jimmy students and athletes with both meaningful instruction and a caring smile. Coach Clark, who retired in 2024, as we all laugh about that, was named either district and region conference coach of the year in a whopping 30 times and was inducted into the Jamestown College Hall of Fame in 1985. This finish line is dedicated to you, Coach Clark, and the nearly 5 decades of successful programs you have achieved. You have won 41 conference championships, 17 NAIA District 12 or Great Plains Regional Championships, 115 All-Americans, and 5 individual national champions. Congratulations, we love you dearly.
Jim, would you give us some final words before we go here today?
Thank you. I know we all got to be at places, but some of my recollections aren't quite the same as everybody else. Maddie, you might have thought I was mean, but I wasn't going to be dumb. Shawna and Billie were the people who probably got to spend the most time with me some days because they were the ones that got dropped off at 14 and 13, and we did that at the end of the long runs. One of the things I do remember is the sledding party, and Shawna got on one of those big inner tubes. We were out at the bunker, and she goes down the hill, and she goes head first right into a hay bale. And I thought, I just lost my best runner. She bounced back out of there. But, you know, one of the hardest things I've had to do is clear everything out of my office. And during that process, I realized that it wasn't championships and it wasn't races, it wasn't any of that that was the most important to the athletes that I coached. I have manila folder on every one of you that's ever been in my program. And I have probably every letter you've ever sent me and things like that. People did write letters at one time. And when I went back and looked at some of those, I realized it was the day we ran in a blizzard, or the day we broke down on the way to a meet, or something like that, were the things that people remember. And if you ask me or them right now, they probably wouldn't remember a certain race or a certain meet that we went to, except for maybe something unusual happened that day on the way to it. So, but the end result is that what I tried to do is just create an environment that people like to come to, and if you don't have that, then people aren't going to stay and they aren't going to succeed. So that's about as simple as I can make that, I guess. But I want to say a little bit about my siblings, because they're all sitting right in here. I wouldn't have stayed here as long as I did if it wasn't for family right here. I never had any other reason to go anywhere else. In Jamestown, I'm known as Deb Hornung's and Diane Conlon's brother. I've run into that a lot. Oh yeah, you're Diane's brother. If you come to the bunker this afternoon, you'll see that my sisters, when they do something, they always do it big. So there's going to be some good things happening there. So I want to thank Austin Heeb. Austin's here, isn't he? Okay. From the day he came here and first talked to me, he always said that I could do whatever I want to do that on my timeline, and not a lot of people ever get that opportunity. I've never been fired, so but it's just been a short 46 years. I'll guarantee that. It's just hard to believe that that much time can go by in a flash like that. But I was just overwhelmed when I got here today and I saw the people that were here. Some people I knew were coming, some people I had no idea. But the fact that you made that effort to come from a long ways away and just makes me humble. I hope some of you get a chance to go to the Hall of Fame induction today, but also at halftime of the football game, the inductees and award winners will be on the center of the football field. So, but just really enjoy this homecoming, and I'm going to go down the line here just a little bit and tell you a little bit of my family. My oldest sister, Phyllis, graduated from Jamestown, so she kind of started this process. Women did not have any sports when my sister Phyllis was in school, so when Title IX was just starting to take over and bring women's sports back, and I was able to get a job where I probably wouldn't have, because there weren't a lot of people really interested in coaching women athletes at that time, to tell you the truth. So, but I just wanted to make the best of the opportunity that I did have, and that's what we should all do. You got to push and get across the finish line. I guess that's the main thing I'd say. Anyway, I recruited my sister Deb, and she became a member of all my first, basically, championship teams and so on. So she helped us to get the ball rolling on actually being successful. And then actually my parents were the house parents in Crizzy Hall and Wilson Hall for 12 years, from like 85 to 97, something like that. And so we just had a lot of things going on in our family here. And then I got to coach my two nieces and a nephew, and my brothers-in-law, they were always here when we had a track meet to help somewhere. And my littlest sister is Julie, and she kind of left North Dakota and moved to Nevada, to Arizona, and to Washington and Texas now. But if you ever needed Julie for anything, she'd be on a plane and be back here and the next day. You know, she's the kind of person that would help everybody with everything. My brother Harry, right here in front of the orange shirt, he got inducted into the North Dakota Track and Field Hall of Fame. He was a state champion runner, state champion cross country and track, and also honored for being a longtime coach. And perhaps the best coach in our family is my brother Larry. He coached an undefeated state champion basketball team from Edmund Maddock in 1987 when they won the state tournament. So he's probably the only one that's got a state championship on there. And anyway, I just, I'm honored and humbled, and I just really appreciate everything you guys have said, and hopefully we beat the bunker this afternoon and we can actually tell some real stories. Thank you, everybody.